A seemingly innocent rendezvous in a motel room turns into a woman's desperate fight for survival. One night, by the dense forest of Hood River County, Oregon, a pickup truck parks outside the Blue Angel Motel. Inside the vehicle, RC lights a cigarette and turns to look at his companion, the lady, a woman he met earlier that night. After a flirty exchange, she pulls the man in for a kiss and commends him for it. Flustered, he appreciates the compliment and asks if she still wants to get a room. The woman smiles and says she'd like to hang out in the car for a bit. So RC leans over to the back to grab some drinks from the cooler. Unbeknownst to the lady, the man keeps a gun under the back seat. Moments later, RC says that if she doesn't want them to get a room, she can give him her phone number so they can meet up another time. The woman teases that nobody asks for phone numbers nowadays because they'd rather communicate through Instagram DMs. When he jokingly reasons that he might just be too old to understand modern dating etiquette, she implies that it's why she likes him. Seconds later, the lady confides that she's never slept with a person she just met before, then clarifies that it doesn't mean she'd never do it. She adds that if it does happen, she has to really want it. The man assures her that he and his girlfriend aren't that serious, revealing that he's in a relationship. So the woman reiterates that if she had a problem with him having a girlfriend, she would have turned him down at the bar earlier. She emphasizes that what they're about to do is strictly recreational and that she deserves it. Relieved, RC leans over to grab a bottle of liquor from the glove compartment for them to enjoy. After taking a swig, the lady brings up the serious issue of the risks women have to take every time they agree to be in a secluded space with a man they barely know. She states that most women enjoy casual intimacy with strangers but decide against it because of the possibility of getting murdered. The man admits he's never thought about the situation from that perspective, and she says it's because he isn't a woman. Although she thinks RC is a nice guy, she asks him if he's a serial killer. Taken aback by her question, the bemused man nervously chuckles, but he assures her that he isn't. Satisfied with his answer, the lady says they can finally talk about what she wants him to do to her. The woman admits that she'd like them to engage in hyper-realistic roleplay where he restrains her to the bed and pretends he's assaulting her. The man says he isn't sure if he's into it, but that he's willing to give it a try. Sensing a hint of hesitation, the lady states that he needs to fully commit to the bit because she'll notice if he isn't. So RC shares that he acted in a commercial once, but notes that it's drastically different from slapping a woman around. However, she says she'd prefer a more romantic storyline where he threatens to harm her. Intrigued and confused, the man jokingly points out that she's a little messed up in the head. Then, the woman insists that even if she says no and starts crying during the act, he shouldn't stop. When RC expresses that he isn't comfortable with the arrangement, she assures him that she's giving him consent to do so. The man finally agrees, and when the lady reaches for her bag in the back seat, he secures the concealed pistol on his ankle. Eventually, they agree on Mr. Snuffleupagus as the safe word. Minutes later, inside the motel room, RC chokes the woman while her hands are restrained with leather cuffs to the metal headboard. She instructs the man to squeeze harder, but when she tells him to stop, he feels uncomfortable continuing the act, even though he knows it's what she wants. Disappointed with his reluctance, the lady tells RC to take off the cuffs. The woman says she doesn't understand why it isn't working, so he reminds her that this was her idea. She wonders if it's because she just doesn't want the experience from him, and the man says maybe it's better that way for the start of their casual relationship. Amused, the lady teases him for wanting a line of communication beyond tonight. When she says she isn't on social media, RC points out that her air of mystery makes him want her phone number even more. Eventually, the pair start kissing and they lay back on the bed. When the man grabs a prophylactic from the table, the woman says he's being too eager and pushes him off. Exasperated, he places the cuffs around her wrists even though she tells him not to. The lady clarifies that although she told him to restrain her the first time, that doesn't mean he can do it again. However, the man says she doesn't get to decide what happens and slaps her across the face. When the man states the demeaning things he's about to do to her, the lady exclaims, Mr. Snuffleupagus. Once he hears the safe word, RC immediately drops the act and asks the distraught woman if she's alright. After he removes the cuffs, she sobs and expresses how much his words hurt her. So the remorseful man says he only said them because he thought it was what she wanted. Suddenly, the lady laughs and commends RC for doing a great job, much to his relief. He wonders why she uttered the safe word even though she was into it, and she says she just wanted a break. As they share a kiss, she envisions him as a demon for a split second, then stares at him with fear and disdain, much to his confusion. Seeing the look look on her face, RC asks if she's alright, so the woman waves it off and says she was just admiring how handsome he is. To defuse the awkwardness, the lady grabs a baggie of illicit substances and suggests they both partake. At first, the man seems reluctant, stating that it's almost morning and it's been a while since he last used. So the woman asks him to reconsider since it's her birthday and adds that using the substance gets her excited for lovemaking. When he finally agrees, she returns to the corner and sprinkles one line of the powder on a hand mirror. Then, she slyly takes out a small vial and sprinkles a similar looking substance next to the first line. After they snort their respective lines, the pair begin tenderly kissing each other again. Minutes later, the lady pushes RC away and puts on her shoes. Perplexed, the man asks if they're ever gonna do the deed, so she mocks him and says that they'll do it if he's still able to make love in the next 5 minutes. Having had enough of her strange antics, he starts putting on his clothes and says she can find another way home. Seeing as he's made up his mind, the woman grabs her bag and locks herself in the bathroom. Inside, she opens up the backpack and takes out a pocket knife and a taser. However, when she exits the bathroom, she sees the open door and realizes RC's no longer there. The lady steps outside and finds the disoriented man on the floor trying to crawl away. Then, she grabs his legs and drags him back into the room. After placing him back on the bed, the woman takes off his shirt and he dazedly asks why she isn't affected by the substance. So the woman takes out the vial and explains that she secretly gave him a sedative. The lady lays down next to RC and claims she didn't want to do any of this and that she just wanted to have a good time. Seconds later, she turns the radio on, and while singing along, she pulls off his boot and removes the sock. Then, the woman stuffs the garment into the man's mouth to keep him quiet. As the lady straddles RC, she takes out the pocket knife and uses it to cut up his chest. Following the despicable act, she returns to the bathroom where she wipes the blood off her hands with a washcloth. Then, she removes her red wig, revealing her real blonde hair underneath. After tossing the man's phone in the commode, the woman checks his wallet for money and finds a badge, revealing that RC is a police officer. When the lady returns to the bedroom, she straddles the man and wipes the blood off his chest, exposing the letters E and L that she carved into his skin. As he whimpers weakly, the woman confides that she's never put the initials on a person's chest before, implying that she's carved the letters on previous victims. Seconds later, she lifts the blade over her head, ready to end the man's life. However, RC takes out his secret pistol and shoots off the lady's ear. Terrified, the woman rushes out of the room and jumps off the balcony. Then, she frantically runs to the motel front desk to ask for help. Meanwhile, the cop rolls off the bed, crawls toward the corner table, and snorts the remaining substance, hoping it'll take him out of his sedated state. Concurrently, the lady tells the front desk clerk, Libby, to lock the door. When she asks the woman if they have any firearms, she says all they have is a baseball bat. Libby tells another guest, Tanya, to call the police. Because she doesn't want the authorities involved, the deranged woman stabs the front desk clerk in the neck, ending her life. Seeing the mortified look on Tanya's face, the lady explains that she didn't want to do it, but she had to. Then, she orders the guest to hand over her car keys, nursing scrubs, and medical supplies. Later, as the woman frantically drives away from the motel, the cop chases after her in his truck. To keep himself awake, RC finishes off the remaining powder in the baggie. In a rural stretch of road, the man stops the truck, climbs onto the bed, and shoots the lady's vehicle. In her panic, the woman swerves and crashes, so she stumbles out of the car. Seeing her standing in the middle of the road, the cop tries to run her over, but she manages to step out of the way. To evade RC, the lady runs into the woods to look for a place to hide. In the forest, the woman finds a bottle of liquor and a pack of smokes left behind by campers. Then, she removes the bandage from her ear and pours the alcohol on the side of her head to disinfect the wound. To calm herself down, she lights a cigarette before continuing the journey. Meanwhile, married couple Genevieve and Frederick enjoy their morning cup of coffee. Then, the man heads to the kitchen to cook breakfast. After he finishes preparing the meal, he returns to the table so he and his wife can enjoy the food. Concurrently, the lady runs across a clearing until she reaches a fenced-in area. She quickly climbs over and heads to the quaint farmhouse in the middle of the property. Inside, Genevieve and Frederick pass the time by completing a jigsaw puzzle. Suddenly, through the window, they see the woman banging on the front door. Meanwhile, RC happens upon the discarded liquor bottle and bloody bandage and realizes he's on the right track. At the house, Frederick opens the door while the cautious Genevieve holds up a can of bear spray. Exhausted, the lady asks the couple for help before collapsing into their arms. After the pair patch up her injury, the woman recounts her terrifying ordeal. Then, she asks if they have any firearms, but Genevieve says all they have is bear spray. Seeing her in pain, Genevieve heads to the upstairs bathroom to grab the medication. When the older woman leaves the kitchen, the famished guest asks if she can eat their leftovers, and Frederick says yes. While the lady scarfs down the food, the man says he's calling the police. Panicked, the woman begs him not to, but he insists because he feels it's the right thing to do. After grabbing the medication bottle, Genevieve heads back downstairs. To her shock, she finds her husband kneeling on the floor, his face bloody and disfigured and a knife in his chest. Beside him, the lady holds the phone, implying that she used it to bludgeon the man when he tried to call the cops. Once the woman removes the blade from his chest, the lifeless Frederick falls face first to the floor. She explains that she didn't want to do it, but she had to, then promises Genevieve that she'll spare her as long as she cooperates. When the lady asks if there's room in the house she can lock her in, the older woman says they have a storm shelter outside. Though still in shock, Genevieve says she can use a chain to lock the shelter doors once she's inside. She adds that she'll be able to survive on food supplies kept in the shelter since she and her husband are doomsday preppers. Later, while walking across the property, Genevieve makes a run for it. Just as she's about to chase after the woman, the lady spots RC behind a thicket of trees, so she decides to return inside the house. In the kitchen, she throws the chest freezer's contents on the lawn and unplugs it from the wall. Then, the woman picks up the medicine bottle from the floor and ingests all the pain medication. Seconds later, she puts on the leather jacket she sees hanging on the wall, grabs the bear spray, and gets inside the chest freezer. When she hears RC entering the house, she tries not to make any noise that might reveal her hiding spot. Meanwhile, the cop carefully walks around the house searching for the woman. In a bedroom, he sees a chest and thinks she's hiding inside, so he shoots it first then opens it up, but all he finds are blankets. After checking upstairs, the man heads to the kitchen where he finds Frederick's lifeless body on the floor. While smoking a cigarette outside, the cop spots the frozen meat on the lawn, so he returns to the kitchen and shoots the chest freezer, hitting her arm. Upon hearing the woman's terrified screams, he opens the lid and knocks her out with a punch. Moments later, RC cuffs the lady to the freezer before calling his fellow police officer Pete for backup. When the woman regains consciousness, the man deduces that she's the Electric Lady, a prolific serial killer who's evaded capture for months. He came to this conclusion upon seeing the dead body in the kitchen and because she carved her initials into his chest. Resigned to her fate, the lady says she always thought she'd go out like Gary Gilmore, a murderer who infamously requested execution by firing squad. Then, she confesses that she felt a fleeting moment of love for the cop while he choked her last night. Suddenly, the woman douses him with bear spray, and in the ensuing struggle, she bites his neck. The lady tears into an artery and the cop falls to the floor where he bleeds to death. Moments later, she climbs out of the freezer, takes his concealed pistol, and places it inside her jacket. As she hears the cops approaching, she quickly pulls down her pants. When police officers Pete and Gail ask what happened, the woman claims the intoxicated man abducted her and took her to the farmhouse to abuse and kill her. The male cop thinks they need to follow protocol and wait for the investigators and medics to arrive. However, his colleague counters that the woman needs immediate medical attention and they have to take her to the nearest hospital as soon as possible. Eventually, Pete agrees to Gail's plan when the lady starts convulsing on the floor. On the ride back to town, Genevieve flags down the police car to ask for help. However, before she can explain what happened, the deranged woman shoots her from the back seat, much to the cop's surprise. Then, she orders the officers to hand over their weapons. The female cop tries to convince her to surrender peacefully, but she defiantly refuses and reveals that she's the Electric Lady. After telling Gail to get out of the car, the serial killer points the gun at Pete and orders him to continue driving. Soon, they stop at a deserted stretch of road, and the police officer asks the woman why she kills her victims. So she tearfully admits that sometimes she doesn't see humans, just devils. Her confession explains why she suddenly wanted to kill RC after envisioning him as a demon in the motel room. When she spots Pete's reflection in the rearview mirror, she sees him as a demon, prompting her to shoot him dead. Seconds later, the lady steps out of the vehicle and walks further down the road. Eventually, she flags down a pickup truck and the concerned driver helps her up. While sitting in the passenger seat, the lady catches her reflection in the side mirror, and her initial shocked reaction quickly turns into relief and acceptance. When she draws her pistol, the driver sees the weapon and shoots first, fatally wounding the passenger. Then, the woman calls the police and explains that she shot a stranger in self-defense and that she's taking her to the local hospital immediately. As they continue down the road, the lady looks over at the driver until she takes her final breath.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.